Okay, the Parks Committee will come to order Tuesday, September 14th. And we will note that Alder Stoyer is here, Alder Eck, and Alder Campbell, and Alder Weary. Everyone's present. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Stoyer, second by Alder Eck to approve any changes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed, motion carried. C, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Eck, second by Alder Campbell. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Regular business, D, number 1. Excuse me. Consideration. Or some other one. Yeah, Bill. Sorry. I don't have too many germs. Oh, wow, it's in there.
Wow.
It's cold.
No, what else is there? Consideration with possible action on the request by Tom Prevost, 1805 St. Agnes Drive, to waive a portion of the street tree removal fee as defined in the approved forestry tree and stump removal policy. Director, or did you want to first?
Well, I'll wait. I'm just going to open the floor because
Oh.
he is here to talk about it. So I didn't know if we wanted to do one or the other.
Yeah, let's, if we could just set kind of the table.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, so
discuss it.
I'll give a brief presentation and then we can open the floor so the resident is here. So,
Okay.
Mr. Prevost, he has requested that there's a Linden street tree right in front of his house. It is in the right of way, so it is a city tree. And he has requested to have that tree removed due to the messiness of the tree with sticks, seeds, and flowers produced by the trees. And this has been an ongoing discussion with Mr. Prevost for several years now. So forestry did go out and inspect the tree whenever we have a request like this. We've been out there numerous times, and the tree is in very healthy condition right now. It's not in any shape that it would warrant removal at this time. So we do have a policy in place that we only remove trees when they're dead, dying, disease or insect infested, or if they're dangerous to the public. Those are the only times that the city will proactively remove a tree. In this instance, this particular tree does not meet any of those qualifications. So in these situations where a resident would like to still remove a tree, even though it's healthy, we have implemented a policy which I've attached to the agenda packet for your review. That policy was brought to Park Committee for approval, and it went through council also, and it was voted unanimous to approve that policy. And what that policy states is it does give the residents or businesses adjacent to these right-of-ways the capability for us to remove the tree. But in order to do that, we charge them the value of the tree along with the cost to remove the tree. So how we calculate out the value of the tree, and it is listed in our policy how we do that, is we use the trunk formula method of tree appraisal as outlined in the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers and published in the Guide for Plant Appraisal. So it is a kind of an industry standard for how to appraise the value of a tree. And so to complete the appraisal process, we go out and we gather some information. So we look at what species it is, we look at the trunk diameter, the condition, the location, and then the placement in the property. So in this particular instance, the Linden tree was found to be in good condition and the trunk was 25 inches. So it's a substantially large tree. We did value the location and placement of the tree as a street tree, which is rated at about 70% of the value of a tree in kind of a park setting. And that's typical for a street tree. So we then use the formula, plug all the information in, and we're able to calculate out the value of the tree. And we do deduct the percentages of the rating. So for example, when we value the tree, we did deduct out the 70 or the 30% because it is a street tree and it's a little smaller than maybe a park tree would be. So when we calculated out, the appraisal value for the tree itself came out to $4,669, and then of course there was a $500 tree removal fee attached to that. So the total fee with removal cost is $5,100. So Per the policy, if the homeowner would like to pay $5,100, we will go in and we will remove the tree. So we have inspected this tree for several years to see if there's any signs of linden borer, because that can be fairly common in that species. And if the tree was infested with linden borer, or there were signs that it was going to be infested, then we would possibly look at removing it. And again, in this situation, that's not the case. I just want to point out that this policy has been in place since 2006, so it's not a new policy. And we have implemented this policy on many different occasions. So this is not the first property owner that has requested a tree to be removed. We have worked with other businesses and homeowners who have paid the value of the tree based on our policy because they wanted the tree gone. And so they have done that. In this situation, it is a very large tree, so it might be a little more expensive than other homeowners have paid. But it's also a nice tree that, as a city and a forestry department, we really don't want to remove that tree. There's a lot of benefits to having a tree of that caliber and size. It provides a lot of benefits to the community. And so per this policy, it's structured so that it's not a one fee for any given tree. It's, the bigger and the nicer the tree, unfortunately, it's also going to be more expensive to remove it because you're losing the value of the tree for the community as a whole. So in this situation, I would recommend we just open the floor to the adjacent property owner. He can give a little bit more information as far as the reason why he's requesting this, and then we can kind of reconvene and talk about what my recommendation would be.
Thanks,
Okay,
Director.
I was just gonna say,
Go ahead.
before we do, we're having an issue with,
We can't.
none of us can pull up our agenda items.
That's what I
Yeah,
earlier.
we can see the agenda, but we can't
Yeah.
just spins to get into everything.
Like the
It's
attached
just
parts,
That's an IT.
Or the packet.
or the packet, yeah.
I have a packet that we can
Well,
pass
I tried
around.
it
I
at
only
home.
have one
I just tried it
copy,
here,
so
and I
what I'll
showed it
do
back to
is
everyone.
I will give
Logan's
you.
gonna drop one off. We can just.
I can get into the.
Can you read it, Mark?
We can see the
What?
basic agenda, but when you try to go to see the attached,
Yep.
Yeah.
not coming through.
Wait,
So
sorry.
here is the policy that was attached to the agenda. You guys can look at it as we talk.
Was it one copy?
That's the only copy I have.
You and I can share this one.
All right,
Okay.
Loretta, do you have
Yeah.
anything to add before you open the floor, or?
Nope, just make a motion to open the floor, please.
Second.
Motion by Alder Rack, second by Alder Campbell to open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Anybody here for this item, just come up and give us your name and address, and
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Tom Prevost. I live at 1805 St. Agnes Drive. And pretty much what Dan said, I agree with everything, okay? Just so you know. A couple quick things. I want to go over exactly why I wanted to take this tree down. And I have been dealing with this for quite a few years, okay? The city's been very, very good about helping me out. As a matter of fact, your forester over here, Brian Telat, I was talking to again. Brian's been out 2 or 3 times, if not more. I'm sure other times when I didn't know he was out there, okay? He's pretty much told me the rules of the city and what they expect, and I'm not knocking anything, they're just doing their job, okay? So I'm not here basically to change your rules or change your policy or anything like this, okay? I'm asking for either a variance or an exception to your rule, okay? And I'm willing to pay. I'm just not willing to pay $5,100, which is a lot for a tree, okay? And that's basically what it comes down to. I know there's exceptions made through the city. I actually owned all the Burger Kings in the city for a long time, which I recently retired and sold them, but I've been to many meetings similar to this before, but never a Parks Committee meeting, so some of you look very familiar to me, but yeah, exactly. So the point being is, I'll tell you why I want the tree down, first of all, and if you could help me, I'd appreciate it. If you can't, I understand, okay? Again, I said I live at 1805 St. Agnes Drive. The reason why I want this linden tree taken down is it is the messiest tree. I'm sure there's other ones out there probably equal to this, but it's terrible. It really is. This tree drops something, and I'll show you pictures here. I'll pass these around. Can I pass around pictures and so on? I have one, and I'll pass this around to start with. First of all, here's what the tree looks like today, and I agree, it's a healthy tree, wish the damn thing would die, but other than that, it's a very healthy tree. All right?
It sounds funny.
I have a linden tree in front of my house.
Do you?
Yeah, we'll
Good
talk
luck
later-
to you.
Talk later about
Well,
it.
then he can
Yep.
empathize.
Well,
Exactly.
We'll see, we'll see.
If you look at the pictures that are coming around here now, this is examples at different times of the year of what happens with my yard. Again, it looks like leaves. I really don't have to cut my lawn, I have to rake my lawn on a constant basis. Now, at some times of the year, it's worse than others, and right now, it's a little bit slower, but it happens. I cut my lawn, and within the next day or two, it's solid leaves all over my yard. It blows into all my neighbors' yards. It's not a good situation. I can show you what it looks like in a second. Again, I got many, many more pictures, but I made 3 or 4 of them, just basically to state what it looks like and what it drops. Again, it just keeps dropping leaves on top of leaves on top of leaves. And with the leaves that it drops, it actually also has got 2 little balls connects to them, and they start falling out of the tree. And the tree also drops sticks and branches constantly. It's not good. I happen to have a pool in my backyard. If the wind's blowing right, it goes over my roof, plugs my what do you call it up, and my skimmer, and it just gets, it's not a good situation, okay? I'm gonna pass this along also. Again, is just another example. If you look at basically of all the leaves that I've bagged up, and it's just constant, okay? Again, this we're talking in June, we're talking in July. It's just, we're not talking when the leaves drop. The leaves haven't even fallen off the trees yet. Same thing comes into effect with sticks, as I said, and I'll pass these around if you wouldn't mind. Where it constantly has sticks, where you're out there pretty much on a daily basis picking up things, is what you're doing. And it's constant. It just never stops, okay? Again, I want the tree removed just because it's a constant thing. My yard never looks good. I'm constantly working on my yard, and I'm getting pretty old right now, and I'd like to either have the tree die before I do, or at least have it gone before then, okay? The other thing that's happening in the neighborhood, and I'll pass this around, there's been 2 trees. Now, these were not the same trees. One directly across the street that blew over in December, fell into the road. And in June, 2 houses down, a tree fell from the boulevard, fell on the guy's house. And,
You want these?
oh, I want those, yeah, I'm gonna pass
I
this
didn't
around in a
memorize them.
second, sorry. So it's to the point now where I wish my tree would have blown down, but it hasn't. I'm not saying it's not safe, but I don't know, the way everything else keeps happening around there. Trees are falling down off the boulevard and so on. With that said, my area, where I live out there right now, they have ash borer apparently and so on. If you start from the crossroad on Beamer, go all the way up to Fisk, there's over 50 trees that have been taken down in the last couple of years. A lot of them are ash borer problems, okay, just recently taken down. I have 2 trees across the street from my house, linden trees, exactly like I have, that were taken down about 3 years ago. I know I called Brian saying, if you're taking those damn trees down, why don't you take mine down? But anyway, it happens. And there's still a few, there's 1 kitty corner from me, and plus my own, and a few others down further in the block, okay? The point I'm trying to make here is, I just want it taken care of. It's extremely messy. It gets worse and worse and worse. It's dropping leaves, as I showed you, dropping everything else. The neighbors aren't happy with me, but they're working with me. I told them to call the city if you had a complaint. They offered to come down, and if you wanted me to, I could, but I didn't ask them to join me today. But anyway, it's just not a good-looking tree anymore. I should say that. The tree is in great shape. It looks beautiful, but it's just very, very messy. So I agree with Dan said, you don't like cutting down a good tree, and I agree with that, okay? But in this particular case, should I have to live, if it was on my own property, which it supposedly isn't my property, the city says they control the boulevard, I would have had it down a long, long time ago. I really would have. And what I'm here to ask for today, like I said before, the city did estimate the tree. The tree came in, as Dan said, at $5,100. I was asked to get an estimate. And again, as I said before, I have Here's what the city sent me on it. And again, it's something, if I want it down, that's what I have to pay. And I could. I just think it's an extreme amount of money to have a tree taken down. And the cost isn't there. We can talk about beautification and everything else, and I'm not arguing with your rules, okay? I'm not trying to change that. I'm saying is I would like some kind of an exception. I ended up contacting Yesterday's Trees, which I use at my restaurants for quite a few years. It came recommended to me from a landscaper down the road. Here's what the tree is estimated at. To remove that tree is $2,500 plus tax. And that was just taken a month ago, whatever the case may be. And that's what it costs to take that tree down, period. It doesn't cost me $5,100, okay? What I'm looking to do right now, and what I'm offering, is I will pay $2,500. I'll pay half of what the city wants. That will more than cover cutting down that tree. They grind my stump, they come back, they plant fresh dirt in there, grass and everything else for $2,500. I'm willing to pay $2,500. I'm not willing to pay $5,100. So I'm asking the city permission. I'm not trying to screw anybody out and it won't cost the city a dime. Either they come, or I have no problem if the city wants to come and cut it down for liability reasons, as long as it gets cut down. But I'm willing to pay $2,500, and that's why I'm here today. So that's it. And again, I'm agreeing with the city. Brian's been more and more helpful. He's been coming out, and he has come out year after year looking, and he keeps saying the damn thing's healthy yet. And I'm going, I know, Brian, what can I say? I'm not arguing that. Someone made a comment, kill the damn thing. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't do business that way. I'm not looking to kill a tree out there. I'm really not. It'd be very easy, but I'm not looking to do that, okay? I'm willing to pay, I'm willing to help. I just want it down before I pass away. And as I get older, it's getting harder and harder to be out there even just to cut my lawn. But I'm sure it's gonna get worse as I get older. And I just don't wanna be out there. It's like every day, every other day, and my lawn always looks messy, basically. There is a rule with the city as far as, they always wanna know what a hardship is. And you have to come up with a hardship why you wanna change the rule or you wanna change something with the city. And again, my rule would be, my thing, basically, because I'm getting very sick and tired of picking up sticks and leaves and little balls out there, is plugging up my swimming pool, and the yard work's getting harder and harder to do that. The other case that's concerning with me, green space, okay? What's irritating about this whole thing out there, I put a shed in my backyard about a year ago, okay? They said I didn't have enough green space on my property in order to put the shed the size I put it. And it wasn't huge, but I don't remember what size it was, like 16 by 12 or something, okay? And my argument being, I could not even count the boulevard with this tree out there and everything else as part of my green space, or I would have had no problem having enough green space. Again, because I got a pool in my backyard, it takes up a lot of space. So this tree, it's been nothing but a burden to me since I had the thing out there, okay? So this land that I take care of, these sticks that I pick up and everything else and rake up these leaves on a constant basis does absolutely nothing for me. It's nothing but a hindrance. And again, it's not that I hate the tree, I just hate what the tree does. I like the beautification. Behind that tree, I have a beautiful red maple, so it's not that I don't have a shade tree. I've got a beautiful maple right behind it. And that's pretty much it. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to take your time anymore.
Thanks, Mr. Prevost. You mind taking a couple questions if there are any?
Yes, I would love
Alder Stoyer, did you have one also with him?
I'll start with your tree there. I know when you got a larger tree next to it, I have several trees in my yard. Does it hamper the growth of that tree at all?
My tree in the back?
No, your maple tree here.
No, my maple tree's actually as big as that tree there right
Okay,
now.
what about all the two trees that are cut down next to the fire hydrant here, next to your next door neighbor here? Those look like they were freshly cut down.
Yes, they were, but that was not a linden tree.
Okay.
But directly across the street from me, there was 2 linden trees removed about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I have to rely on Brian here. It wasn't that long.
Because they were diseased?
I'm sorry, man?
They were diseased?
Were they diseased?
I believe they were diseased and they were dying at that time, and again, you have to ask Brian why it was condemned, but it did, I think branches were breaking, big branches broke off and stuff, so, yeah. Again, mine's not doing that. I wish it was, but it's not. I can't argue, the tree is in good shape. But again, as you can see by the pictures, it's It's just a mess. And again, some days are better than others, some years are better than others. This year hasn't been a good year so far, but now it's starting to slow down. But the leaves haven't even fallen off the tree yet. The normal leaves, these are just little, oh, here, I didn't show you this. Here's what they look like if you want to see them. These are little things that fall off the tree.
I got them in my yard.
Any other questions, Steve?
No.
Alder Campbell, Alder Sawyer?
Okay. All right, Mr. Prevost, thanks for coming in. You're very, could be an attorney, I guess, you know. You brought us some good points. I have a linden tree in front of my house. I've been on council 11 years. We had a situation near Mather Heights Park where the entire neighborhood was linden trees. And we had some very volatile meetings. Some of them came down because they were diseased. And I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with linden trees. So I have them in my yard. I've had them for 30 years. Yes, I do get quite a bit of that as well. I'm at the point now when I cut my lawn, I just bag them up. I just cut the lawn, bag them up, and I dump them off at the site. Is that the solution? Well, for now it is, because I've had the city come out and look at my trees as well. So I'm just saying that I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
The problem that I had, because you're not willing to pay the $5,100, we had neighbors at the Mather Heights area that came in and had private arborists come in and look at the situation. And her figures versus what the city had were completely different. So part of it's the value that the city puts on trees
Yes.
versus what you might have with someone, and that's tough.
Yeah, I
and it's
understand
like,
that.
well, wait a minute, and I think that comes up a lot. So it may seem exorbitant, but like I said, the city has their methodology as far as why it is the way it is. So I do sympathize with you. I'll let others talk, but I know what you're going through.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alder Sawyer.
Can I add one
Sure,
thing?
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing, and again, Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Brian mentioned this to me a year or two ago, whatever the case may be. When these trees were planted outside, apparently whoever used to be in control of planting trees out there, this person loved this sort of tree, and he planted them all over the city, I was told. I'm not exactly sure how many were planted. I asked Brian at this time, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, I don't believe you even plant this tree anymore today?
We plant lindens, but not the redmond variety, which is what causes most of the seeding issues.
Okay. So the point being, the city's not even replanting these trees anymore, and I guess that's kind of a major issue on my part also.
Thanks.
That's
Yeah,
it.
go ahead, Alder Sawyer.
And the point I wanted to make too, and I knew the person, I worked for the city for 25 years, so urban forestry is a fairly new phenomenon. It's in the mid-'70s it really started to come into place. Well, lindens grew very quickly, and they grew all over the city. So what the city has done, and Brian can attest to it too, our forester, that now they plant a new tree every 300 feet. They don't plant all lindens or all maples, and I think we've learned over time how that works, but until we get to that point, we still have to deal with the trees that we planted. So I don't have a direct answer to that, but I'm just saying that's just the way it was.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Alder Sawyer. Any other questions? Alder Eck?
Well, it's more of a comment, because so Tom is in my district.
Yes.
So we've talked about all of this, and so I do empathize. It is a struggle because of the policy, and talking to Director Ditch, he had warned me if we make exceptions for one, then expect more. But then there's always also kind of looking at each case by case where this is a mess. Like I can totally, I feel like that would be horrible to live with. So it's a tough place to be in. But I appreciate you coming in and being so well prepared. So thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other questions for Mr. Prevost? No, okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Anybody else here for this item? Anybody else? Okay.
Motion to close the floor?
Oh, okay.
Second.
Well, and I just wanted to ask
Well,
our forester, but he's
We can do
staff,
that.
so I can do
he's
that.
staff.
Okay, motion by
Motion
Alder
to close the
Sawyer.
floor.
Second.
Second by Alder Campbell to close the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Would like to kick it off. Alder Eck?
Oh, well, I just wanted to ask our forester,
Brian?
Ryan, Mr. Pilat, to kind of give do you have some thoughts at all?
Sure. Yeah, a couple notes. I guess if you look at the whole urban forest throughout the city of Green Bay, there's approximately between 6,000 and 7,000 linden street trees. So and Nancy Avenue. I mean, lindens are notorious. They can be messy. They're large trees. We don't use them as much as we do other species for that reason, but yet these trees are large. They have canopies. They provide a lot of aesthetics and value, stormwater benefits and things like that. So there is value to the tree. I'm not arguing that they cannot be a nuisance as far as mess and things like that, though. Let's see, just to go difference between the estimate that Tom provided and that estimate is not, that's just a removal estimate. So there's no appraised value. The value of that tree is a piece of infrastructure, and what it does for stormwater benefits and things like that are not taken into account with that. And that's where our value is so much higher, because our removal, stump grinding, restoration, and tree planting costs are really only $500. I didn't minimize that because, of the large value of the tree. Typically, a tree in a good location of good species and good condition is going to run about $200 per diameter inch for appraised value. So, this tree, a 25-inch diameter, it could have been up into, a range of $5,200 plus those removal costs and things like that. So, Tom and I have been great working with. We've had lots of great cordial conversations on the street, and so no issues that way. I did try to work with him on the value and the condition of the tree and things like that, to try to keep that cost down as much as I could within reason. The other trees along St. Agnes, so it's a long stretch of road. About 50% of it was ash, so infested with emerald ash borer. A lot of removal because of that reason. And then in Tom's section in there, it's linden trees. So linden borer is a common issue, and when we do find linden borer infested trees, we do remove them and take them down. So the neighboring trees that were in that area were linden borer infested.
Linden borer, actually.
Linden borer, it's an insect. It's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. Bores into the tree. It weakens the condition of the tree, and so when we do see it, we get pretty proactive in taking those down. But this tree does not have them.
There's no sign of it.
There isn't. I look at it twice every year. I really do. I do. And I guess just the other thing, because of the number of lindens that we have out there, just the precedent that you could be setting with this, because we do get a lot of complaints on those trees. If we plant them, we plant a lot of them in the parks, so when they do make a mess, it's not so much of an issue for the homeowner. So linden in itself is a great tree. Just you got to put it in the right location. And again, that Redmond variety does seem to seed a lot more than some of the other varieties. We have about 6 or 7 different varieties of lindens on the street.
And I do want to also add to that lindens aren't the only tree that we get complaints on. We also get a lot of complaints on oak trees.
Yep.
And so, as we're evaluating whether or not we grant this request, we have to think, well, if additional requests come forward, it's not going to be just for lindens. It could open up to other species too. And oftentimes when these requests come forward and we give what the rate is, I think the general reaction from everybody is, that's really high. I can remove it for cheaper myself. Everybody that we've talked to pretty much has had that same reaction. And some people are willing to pay it and others aren't. Some people just want the city to pay for it and take it out, and they start going through the process, and once they find out we have a policy in place, then they kind of back off because they just don't want to fund it. They prefer the city do it. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that this isn't limited to lindens. This is a fairly common request. I mean, you could probably answer this better than I. How many similar requests do we get per year to remove trees?
Yeah, because the same policy also covers construction projects, anywhere from like driveway widening, aprons and things like that, sidewalk replacement, and like a lot of the Packer buildings and things like that along Shadow Lane. People wanted better visibility of the stadium. So this policy, because these removals don't fit within the dead, dying, disease, and dangerous criteria, the same process of appraisal is used for any of those situations as well. So I was talking to a developer literally right before I came over here for this meeting, where they want to widen the driveway apron, and the tree is going to be an issue where it could be compromised because of root damage. So what are we going to do with this tree? Well, we would go through the same appraisal process with that too. So So if it's setting a precedent where we're just gonna allow a homeowner to pay to have the tree removed on their own, you know, they could pay to have any tree taken down for any reason at that point. And there is no appraised value taken into account for that.
Thanks, Brian. Oh, Troy, you have a question?
I appreciate Brian bringing up those points, and I think, you know, I remember when I dealt with citizens years ago with that whole issue in the Mather Heights area, you know, having the various values out there. And I guess, you know, looking at 5,100 versus 2,500, and you're stating that the 5,100 counts for the tree, the removal, stumping, but also the inherent value of the tree with stormwater. I mean, are these hard and true monetary items, or is it more of a general feeling? Like you said, that it goes by inch, you know, by, you were
Yeah,
saying.
so, yeah, the appraisal, the formula that's used, so it's a rather long formula, but it takes the diameter of the tree 4.5 feet off the ground, and that's what sets the basic price for any tree, regardless of where it is, what species it is, or the condition. So you start with 100% value basic based on the diameter of the tree. So $25 or 25-inch DBH tree takes a long time for a tree to grow to that size, so there's a lot of appraised value in there. Then from there, that price actually gets discounted on the species, the condition, the location. So the appraised value in that calculation doesn't, I mean, that all those other intrinsic values of aesthetics and benefits are part of that formula. And that's a standardized formula that's used throughout the country.
So we've had this in the city for quite some time.
Yeah, this policy was enacted in 2006. The appraisal process, I mean, it's through 9 editions and revisions. It's been around for decades.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Thanks, Alder Eck, and then
I just wondered, does that estimate also include a new tree being replaced? Okay.
okay.
That's what I was getting at. I mean, it would have to be replaced by a tree either way, right?
Right. Yeah, but you're going from a 25-inch tree to a 2-inch diameter tree.
So $10 tree by the inch? Just saying, $200. $200.
How much is a new tree to plant depending on the species?
Well, the tree value to buy a new tree is minimal. It's more the labor to plant it, because we buy the trees pretty small and grown at our nursery.
Right.
So it's really just the labor that's included with it. Now, in this situation, I don't know if we would put a tree back in its current location. I guess we'd have to have more discussion on that. But in a lot of instances, we do replace it with either a different species and definitely a smaller tree.
One without all the messiness.
Well, every tree
Those
is
kids.
inherently messy. You have
Yeah.
leaves and branches for every tree that you have. It's just what else comes along with it depends on the species.
Any other questions for Ryan? Anything else for us?
Oh, that's it.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the committee? Any discussion or motions? I do want to mention, I forgot at the beginning of the meeting, I was remiss. Everything we do tonight is a recommendation to full council. So full council's next Tuesday. We recommend action items to them, and they take the final action. So anything you do or don't like, you're free welcome to show up there and talk about it and appeal it or support it. All right, I bought you a couple seconds. What do you want to do? Entertain a motion, or save more questions?
The heart's saying one thing, the head's saying something else for me. You know, I think the fact that we've had this policy in place since 2006, it wasn't taken lightly. And like I said, in my district, I've dealt with numerous tree issues. And I mean, I had people wanting to go down to City Hall with pitchforks, you know, they were so angry. And they were bigger. I saw your tree, it's big, but these were big, huge linden trees, just all warped out, just really kind of not the prettiest trees on earth, and they were shedding like crazy. But they did get linden board, and then we took down most of those trees. So it was almost serendipity that it happened, because they were ready to march, but
It's because they wanted them removed.
they wanted them removed. So I'm kind of torn, and I've gone through all the stuff with appraisals. or the citizen will say, well, wait a minute, and then the city will say, well, this is the inherent value of the tree. So at this time, I'm probably, I don't know, unless somebody else says something, I'm not willing to change that.
I would just add, I think we all have probably some linden woods or linden trees in our district, and I'm certainly the same way. I have those too, and I have them checked all the time also. 2006, I think that was my second term on council. We passed
Back
that.
in the Iron Age?
I do remember it, yeah. I remember why we put it in, because we had a lot of people coming in, and we had a lot of appeals, lots and lots and lots. And once we had the policy, it kind of stemmed that, and we had something we could rely on. And I'm in line with sticking with the policy personally. I think it's there for a reason. The tree's a city asset. Yes, it has some negatives, but it is a city asset, and we have to value it as such. That's where I would come from. Well, we
I
can't.
have one question for staff here, if I can. If that tree would have any kind of storm damage, who pays for that?
The city would take care of any storm damage. If a branch or a limb falls off, we would come in and repair it and prune it as needed.
I know pruning is done that way too.
Yep. For all city street trees, we do all the pruning and limbing as needed. Storm repair.
So does the sidewalk define
The property
They call
line,
it a
the
green
property
space.
line defines it. Anything on the roadside of the property line is considered city boulevard or city right of way. And if there's a tree in that property, it's a city tree.
Within a certain amount of feet, right?
Yeah,
We don't have a
every
sidewalk.
every street is different and has a different
setback?
width or setback of that property line. A lot of streets in the downtown area in this location have maybe a 5-foot grass area, and then the sidewalk. Usually, if there's a sidewalk, the property line is 6 inches off of the sidewalk, typically. But it varies in every situation.
I asked that because I had one of them bean trees with big leaves and the flowers, and I thought that's what you're getting at. And it grew up like this, and it started to split. I'm hunting out of them today because they're 101 inches around. But they were hollow in the middle, and I knew an arborist, and he said, when he was doing some work across the street, he said, $1,000 since he was there, blah, whatever. And it was 101 inches round. But it was ready to fall. And there's power lines and everything, and I was told by someone else that if it falls in the street, the city will remove it at the cost of the city, to me.
So you're saying if it's
Because
a
it was-
private tree that
Well, it
falls
was
into
2
the street?
feet.
Well, I'm going to, if
I know.
we're getting off track here a little bit.
I know, I'm
I'm sure we
just,
could have an
comparing,
interesting and lengthy discussion on that one,
And
but.
clarifying it.
Yeah, no,
You know what I
that's
mean?
fine.
I'll just make a comment.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, Tom, I appreciate you coming in, and I am between a rock and a hard place because you are in my district, and I am looking at all the droppings. It is difficult, but as I hear from staff on this being an issue for a lot of trees, I'm concerned about opening the floodgate to other people coming in. So, so I hope you understand that because it is hard for me. So, and I do empathize with you.
So I mean.
And I'm kind of on the same page with that. I just
Well-
looking at the
Any motions from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to deny the waiver.
Motion by Miller, sir, to deny the request for number 1. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Campbell. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Go to council next week. Thanks.
Oh, do you want your paperwork, Tom? Oh, your
Oh,
paperwork?
that's fine. I have copies.
Oh,
Thank you.
Good luck.
Number 2, consideration of possible action on the request by Downtown Green Bay Inc. and Bello to install and donate a Green Bay placemaking sign.
Since you can't open your agenda, you guys can look at that. That's my
yeah,
only
has that
copy.
changed? Has anybody found that it changed?
No,
that?
she's still blank.
So recently, we were contacted by Downtown Green Bay Inc. and Wello, and they asked approval to install a placemaker sign on city deck at Shopko Landing. And so you can see in page 1 of the agenda packet that it shows what the sign will look like. That sign is being proposed to be 8 feet, the letters will be 8 feet tall, 18 inches wide, and it's meant to take a photograph by it, where families can stand next to it and people can step back and take a photograph. We have 2 proposed locations, which are shown on a map in the agenda packet. One of them is on the wood overlook, over the water. We're not sure if we can place it there yet because we don't know if the structure can handle it. And then the alternate location is inland on the brick area where it's much easier to do it because we don't have to deal with structural issues. In either situation, Downtown Green Bay, Inc. and Wello will hire a structural engineer, which will have oversight of it. It's actually a local one we've approved already. And they're going to look at the structure and do a structural analysis to see if we can handle putting it on the wood portion of the deck. But either one we're supportive of as long as it gets signed off by a structural engineer. The letters will be on a pedestal about 18 inches tall so people can sit down on it if they want to. And they are proposing uplighting so you can light it up at night. And the approximate cost is $20,000, of which Downtown Green Bay, Inc. and Willow will fund about $15,000 of that. And then the city's Community and Economic Development Office will fund $5,000 out of their budget, which is already allocated as part of their marketing budget. So they're not requesting any additional funding on the city's end of things. So I would recommend approval. If it does get approved, their goal is to have this up and installed in time by mid-November, definitely in time for the holiday parade.
So, yeah, thanks, Deanna. These are, I think, things like this are welcome. Come downtown, take a picture. You see that everywhere you go. You can get those photo opportunities. And I did have one question on it's I Heart Green Bay, and the heart is made of cheese for those ones. There's a little spot to put a buck in, and I think you get a random sample of cheese. It's like a, who
that
You're a businessman, help us out.
Is that a different one? Oh, okay.
Let's get back on that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Alder,
I have okay, what's it made out of?
It'll be metal or steel and just welded together and painted.
I think it's cool.
So, there was a concern about the weight itself?
There's a concern if it gets put on the wood portion of the deck overlook on Shopko Landing. And so, like I said, we will not approve that location until a licensed structural engineer signs off on it and says it's okay, and we review that with DPW and they say okay. But like I said, on the map, we show 2 different locations, one of which is in the on-land portion. So structurally, it's very simple and easy to do in the second location.
If we approve this, I mean, are we supposed to pick out the sites as well?
I just have a comment.
We have to open the floor.
and we can, if you like, we can
make
open the
a-
floor.
No, I was just saying, you just gotta
Motion.
powder coat it.
Oh, is that it?
That's it, instead of painting.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be powder coated. I'm not real sure. I'd have to check with their vendor to see what their point is. I know it's a metal sign that's going to have some sort of coloring on it. But at this point, you're not really approving the location other than putting it on city deck and allowing staff to select the final location.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Steuer to approve, second by Alder Eck. Did you have a question or comment, Alder?
No, I was just trying to open the floor for him. That's all.
Powder coat. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Do you want your copies back?
For now, you can keep them. I'll take them at the end of the meeting.
Number 3,
Here's the next
consideration
bit.
with possible action on amending sections of Chapter 28 of the Green Bay Municipal Code relating to Park and Rec to allow the Director of the Park, Rec, and Forestry Department to enforce the recently approved Park and Greenway encroachment policy.
So, if you recall, a few park committee meetings ago, we recently approved the Park and Greenway encroachment policy. Now that the policy is approved, there are 2 additional approval processes that we need to go through to actually implement it. So the first step is to modify several sections of Chapter 28 of the Green Bay Municipal Code relating to parks and recreation. So what these changes do is it allows the Parks Director to implement and enforce the policy. Right now, I don't have the capability to do that with how the current ordinances are written. So in summary, section 28-2 needs to be updated to better clarify the definition of who the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry is, per the definition for the city. So not particularly me, but the position as a whole. We also added item F to section 28-3, defining that there is an encroachment prohibition in the parks, and it defines what that includes. So it clearly states what encroachment is and the fact that it's not allowed in our park system. And then item C in the enforcement section of 28-5 needs to be updated to then give the park director enforcement capabilities. So those are the three things that we're proposing changing in the ordinance. We do have somebody from the law department here who drafted the modifications to the ordinance. So if you have specific questions beyond what I just presented, you're welcome to ask questions.
Thanks, Director. And obviously our attachments aren't working online, so we're passing it around.
Yeah.
And we keep trying. It's not working still, so.
Yeah.
Is there a provision in there if somebody wanted to appeal it?
There's a provision in the policy,
Okay.
and all that this does is it refers to the
Okay.
policy.
Perfect.
It gives me approval or the parks director approval to enforce the policy. And then the other thing that we do have to change, which we're not approving today, is we do have to add the inspection fee to our fees and charges schedule. That'll be going to finance committee, that doesn't come to parks.
The re-inspection fee or?
It'd be an inspection fee. I mean, you'll get, if you have to re-inspect it, it's still called an inspection.
Okay. So the first time we go out
The
there?
first time you don't get a fee.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, correct.
Which
Just
is
for
give people a letter
clarification.
and fee right away.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first one,
Okay.
we inspect it and see if there's a problem, and then if we have to re-inspect it. But it's still called an inspection fee, this is when we charge it.
Mr. Sawyer, questions or a motion?
No, I
Just
don't
trying
know
to
if
see.
Logan's here.
No, we might want to hold this up until at the end of the meeting, so keep you here for a while. You like
Hold
having
on.
you here? You should visit us more.
So,
Logan? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you wanna
Let's
come-
think of a
Logan, I
question
got-
for Logan.
Yeah,
No,
come
I
on
don't,
up.
I can't think of anything. Sorry, Logan.
Logan,
Okay.
I just wanted to ask you how long you worked on this. I mean, was it a, you know,
How long did I work on
yes.
drafting this? I mean, it took a little bit of time to just make sure that we have everything covered, but it wasn't anything too crazy.
Okay, all right.
So
other questions,
we're
or-
revisioning.
Member for question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Alder, sorry. Or, Ken.
So, when we started talking about this several weeks ago, or meetings ago, was any of this, or the old one sent out to the people? Remember you said you were gonna, like,
We haven't,
letter.
yeah, we're not able to send out any letters or do any inspections right now because right now the ordinance does not allow the Parks Department or the park director to implement the policy. So before we can do anything, we do have to approve these changes to the ordinance, and then we do have to add the fee to our fee structure. So until those two things happen, the policy's approved, but I can't enforce it. And so really, I think how the timing is going to work for this is because part of the encroachment policy is inspecting whether or not people mow their yards. More than likely, by the time we go through these last two final changes, it'll be well into October. And at that point, the grass isn't really growing, so we can't really tell if people are mowing or not. So the reality of this is, although we have to go through these processes and change them now, we probably won't start implementing the policy until next spring. And so probably no letters will go out until next spring when we can actually tell if people are mowing the properties or not.
Any questions, Alder Campbell?
no,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alder Steuer to approve.
second?
Second by Alder Campbell. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. All right.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Yeah, good job.
Passes
Number
order.
4, consideration with possible action on the purchase of 12 new Scrambler Ride seat assemblies from Eli Bridge Company for Bay Beach Amusement Park for $76,000 plus shipping. Thanks.
As you know, we do have a Scrambler Ride that's pretty old out at Bay Beach Amusement Park. It's been there for many, many years. The current seats that are on that ride are original to the ride, and they are steel seats. And so what the manufacturer has noticed with Scrambler models of this age or older is that over time there's rusting that occurs in the structure of those seats and the bolts. Now that's not necessarily meaning that that's happening in our particular instance, but when they notice that across the board kind of, or in other models, then what they do is they put out a bulletin and they require certain upgrades to be made if you want to continue to operate the ride. So that's what happened in this case. They've noticed in other locations this has been a problem with rusting, so they're mandating that anybody who has a Scrambler of this age has to replace all of those steel seats along with the bars that close it and replace them with aluminum ones. And we are only able to purchase them from the manufacturer for how these rides are inspected by the state. So we can't, source it out locally to get to the cheaper cost. So we have to, because this ride was originally manufactured by, what's the name of the company? Eli Bridge Company. Although it's Eli Bridge, this is actually the company that made the ride, this amusement park ride. And so we have to buy these seats directly from that manufacturer. So this is a sole source request. We did get a formal quote from them. The quote came in at $76,000 plus shipping costs. We're not sure yet how much the shipping cost will be, but it'll be negligible because it's not that far away. We do have to pay $250 for each seat to crate them up. So it'll be a few $1,000s extra, but I can't give you the total amount right now. Of this, the funding for this is half of it will be funded out of our 2020 Bay Beach budget, or 2022 Bay Beach budget, I apologize. And then the other half will be funded out of the 2023 Bay Beach budget. So in our budget, what we do is we put a certain amount allocated for ride repairs. And so, and that amount is consistent year to year to year for the most part. We usually add more a little bit each year because costs increase. But for the most part, that's always in our budget where it's a pretty substantial amount for ride repairs. And so we're just going to tap that account. So I'm not concerned about the budget, that money not being there in next year's budget, because we've always had that in our budget for many, many years. And we have to continue to keep that in our budget to keep our rides up and running.
Thanks, Director. And then Alder.
Oh,
Well, I was just gonna ask, where the cost was gonna be handled, and you explained that, so perfect.
and I was too, so you answered it.
2 for
I'm
2.
going to make a motion to approve it.
I have another question.
Sorry.
Get to-
Just 'cause it's
Dan,
yours.
how long have we had this ride? And was it new?
I can't answer that right now. I
Wasn't
can give you
alive.
that answer, I can look into it, but I've been with the city for 20 years. That ride's been here for many years before that. So if I were to guess, the ride's at least 40 years old plus. And I don't know if it was purchased new or used. I can look into it and get you that by council.
And the second question, and the rest of the ride is in decent enough shape to put this kind of repair into it?
It is. If you recall, the ride was down for a portion of the year because we had one piece that was cracked, so we actually ordered a replacement piece. And so we just spent some money rebuilding that ride this year and got it up and running again. This is kind of the second phase of that.
Okay.
There was someone here who wanted to comment. If you could open the floor.
Motion open the floor.
Second.
Motion by Sawyer, second by Direct. Open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. I just need your name and address, and then you can. Thank you.
David Bartakovsky, I'm at my business at 900 Cedar Street here in Green Bay. I just had a quick question. Now, when you say the Scrambler, you're talking about the individual seats that you sit in. They're going to replace them with aluminum.
The bucket is going to be replaced. Right now, the whole bucket is steel.
Right.
We're going to get that replaced with aluminum, and
Right.
then there'll be probably a seat cushion.
My
on
question
it.
is, why don't you guys auction those off? The old ones, raise funds them that way, and then order the new ones. It's
Yeah,
just my
that's-
suggestion.
that's a
Because
great
I would put one in
suggestion.
my house. I think it'd be pretty cool. But yeah,
That's a
you
great
can do them and
suggestion.
convert them, but that's all I wanted to
Get
say
a
instead
discount
of.
for coming to the meeting.
Good idea.
But yeah, you might want to look at that because I think it's very nostalgic and they look pretty cool in
Probably the one
in
that
a
I
restaurant
Hey,
or
maybe we could put a bench right next to this.
Yeah.
I was always the little guy
I
going
love-
up.
I just
so
wanted to make
get
that
smashed on the
suggestion.
outside.
Suggestion.
Right.
Thank you.
I rode that
Yeah.
sadly with my daughter, and it was not a pleasant ride.
You want to sit on the inside, so you can
So,
say.
Yeah,
Can you give me your name?
I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
yeah.
Any other comments from the
yep.
council?
Motion to close the floor.
Motion by Story to return to regular order.
Oh, second.
Second by Alderette. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
motion carried. All right, what are your wishes or any other comments?
I'm just gonna make a comment. I don't wanna reveal my age, but I rode on that when I was a kid, so it's been around a long time.
Me too.
So it's probably 45 years old.
As much as we would open it up to the bidding of the public, it'd be kind of nice to have them as benches around the park. Just say, I sat in this a long time ago.
Or, you know, somebody could
Well,
put.
and I apologize, we would need to open the floor up again.
Oh,
if
I'm
you want.
sorry.
That's okay, that's all right, we
Great
can,
idea.
we
I
certainly
think
can.
we're on it.
But
I
I think
like
that's a great
it. I like
idea,
it.
if you could,
We'll look
Round
into
Park's
that.
maybe at a
great.
future director's report, you could let us know what was, rather than just recycling them. I think that nostalgia,
We'll look into
there's
that.
gonna be
Yeah.
people who would love to put it. Yeah.
It could be metal letters behind. I rode this 40 years ago.
I would put them on the Fox River if you can sit. I mean, they're kind of cool.
Motion by
Let's keep them
Alderette.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
All right.
Yes, second.
Motion by Alderette, second by Alderstart to approve. Discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Good idea. All right, number five, consideration with possible action on the request by Wisconsin Public Service for a utility easement in the Beaver Dam Creek Greenway adjacent to Chantel Street.
All this District 11 stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Can't
It
see
is in
the
my
attachments. Here is a map and
Not
the
even
actual
looking at it.
easement agreement.
I know, it's just frustrating.
So this is similar to many of our other requests by Wisconsin Public Service. So in this area of the city, they have a lot of overhead lines, which are old. And the lines are getting brittle. They're having a lot of problems with them, especially in storms where trees fall on them. And they're getting a lot of power outages due to storms and high winds. And so what they're trying to do in kind of these older parts of the city is to bury a lot of those lines. So that's what they're proposing to do in this situation, is take an overhead line, bury it in the ground. In order to do that, they need these easements, as you see in the map. We have reviewed this request with Law Department and Public Works, and there are no concerns on this request. I do want to mention that WPS will be installing one above-ground utility cabinet on the east side of Chantel Street in that little area, the little easement that's shown on the map. So they will have one above-ground cabinet there. And just for the record, I want to mention TDS Metrocom is likely going to request another cabinet right next to that one. That'll be a separate request. It may be able to even fit within the boundaries of this easement, I'm not sure yet, but we really don't have to discuss the TDS Metrocom easement because that would be a separate discussion. At this point, we're just requesting approval of the WPS utility.
Motion to
Thanks,
approve.
Director. Motion by Alderstart to approve.
Second.
Second by Alderette. Any questions, comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Director's report.
Okay, I just have a few items. One is I just wanted to update you on the purchase of the Nebula Z-Ride for Bay Beach Amusement Park. So just today, we finalized the contract between the two legal departments, and we'll be issuing the PO in the next few days. So that ride will be on order, so we'll have that early next year. Secondly, I want to give you an update to our Conservation Corps program, the Green Bay Conservation Corps program. So officially, the grant kicks into gear next Monday. And as part of the funding for that, if you recall, we have funding through the grant to hire 6 full-time positions and 15 seasonal positions. So just yesterday, we got final commitments to fill all 6 positions. So we had a very quick turnaround. We're very pleased with the candidates. Right now, 3 of them have actually formally been hired because they've gone through the background checks. The other 3 were still in the process of doing the background checks. And as long as those 3 pan out, we'll have a full staff within the next week and a half. So we're very happy that we were able to fill those positions so quickly.
What was
So,
that for again, Dan? I'm sorry.
Those were for Green Bay Conservation
Okay.
Corps.
All right.
So we have 2 full-time lead workers and 4 full-time crew workers. So we're happy with the candidates, and
Is that
they're going to be
for
based
Parks
out of.
Department?
Yes, this will be run through the Parks Department, and the base camp for that is going to be at the Wildlife Sanctuary. So we have the meeting rooms in the basement of the Nature Center. There's one meeting room that's attached to the greenhouse. That's going to be the main office for the Conservation Corps program. So that's where they're going to be based out of, and then from there they'll do work throughout the sanctuary and throughout all of the entire park system. But every day they'll meet there to kind of regroup and decide where they're going. And then the last update I want to give you is in regards to the Triangle Hill Bike Skills Course that's being constructed. So if you recall, Bear Creek Preservation Foundation fundraised and is paying for the installation of a bike skills course. It's well underway. It's probably 3/4 the way constructed. They did run into a problem which temporarily stalled construction where they found contaminated soil on the hillside when they started excavating it. So 50, 60 years ago, somebody decided to dump a load, a bunch of loads of glass into the hillside. And so we're working on remediation of that. So what we're going to have to do is excavate about 400 tons of fill out of that hillside, haul it to a landfill, and then bring new clean fill in to replace it, because obviously we can't have a bike skills course built into a hillside filled with glass.
So no idea who did that.
No, that was,
That was back.
Long
That was
time.
before cell phones.
50,
Way-
60, 70 years ago. I don't know when
But
that
was it
happened.
All right.
ground up glass, like to look like sand, or
No, it was
literal glass?
It was glass and debris and stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was the
Yeah.
far edge.
But it was all covered by vegetation before, so we didn't know about it. So what I want to let you know is the city is going to pay for the remediation costs because the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation does not have enough money to do that. So they would either have to pull off site and fundraise more, or the city will cover the cost for it. We do have the funding in place that you authorized through our bond request last year for mountain bike trail improvements. So the funding's been approved, and you've already approved the project to move forward. So I don't need the approvals to actually implement it and get the cleanup work being done. I just more or less informational for you, so you're aware of what's going on out there. And that is all I really had to share as far as the director's report.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions? Parks?
Well, I know that Alder Weary had requested something like a kind of a process for recruiting new employees, and remember we talked about that last time. Is that coming back at a different time?
Yeah, we'll be bringing that up prior to the budget meeting so that we can give you some thoughts and suggestions. We already have an idea of what we'd like to increase our hourly rates to for all of the positions, and we built that into our proposed budget, which is currently being reviewed by the finance director and the mayor. But before the budget comes before the finance committee and council, we will come before you and tell you what our proposal is and how we plan on addressing that. So I would say sometime in October, we'll be bringing that forward, probably early October.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, yeah. Be aggressive, be creative.
Yep.
Let's steal everybody else in the community's workers for once instead of being the last. Let's be fully staffed next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
next meeting.
Receive and place it on file
Motion to receive and place on file.
by Stoyer,
Second.
second by Campbell. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 28th.
Motion to adjourn.
And to adjourn. Alder Stoyer,
Second?
second by Alder Rack. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We're adjourned.